So in order for us to divide polynomials, I want us to review long division. Now, I realize that it's been, probably 5th or 6th grade since we did this. So we're going to just work through this one together. We're going to write our steps. And then we're going to start applying it to those polynomials we've been working with. So when we start with long division, hopefully you remember how to do this. We'll see. Remember, you're looking at, does 5 go into 3? Does 5 go into 3? We're looking at one number at a time. Okay, so then we're going to do 5 into 32, right? So does 5 go into 32? 6 times. Very nice. It doesn't go into 3, so we're not going to put anything there. Maybe you were taught to just put a space. I was taught to write an X. Sometimes we were taught to put a 0. What do we do now? We got to what? We got to times the 5 and the 6. What do we get for 5 times 6? 30. Then what do? We subtract. And now we bring down the 9 and we do it all over again. So how many 5s are in 29? 5. And then we what? We multiply. We get 25. And then we subtract, we get 4, and we bring down the 6. We do it one more time. How many 5s are in 46? 9. We multiply. We subtract. And that's our remainder. Now, depending on what grade you're remembering, okay, in probably 5th grade, you were taught to write remainder 1. And then in 6th grade, you were taught to put a decimal and a 0, right? So the way we're going to do it, we're going to write it as a remainder, but it's a special kind of a remainder. So we're going to write plus 1 over, what were we dividing by? 5. And this is our answer. Okay? Let's write down the steps for what we just did here. Okay? Because those same steps are going to work for polynomials. So step 1, we're going to set up our dividing. Okay, we're going to say our divisor. Guys, we're just going to write denominator there, right? It's going to be our denominator. Goes into, why is my pen not writing? Into what we call the dividend. Guys, that's just a fancy way of saying numerator. And that's going to give us our answer, which is our quotient. Okay? So we set it up, and then we started looking at, we needed to divide. We said 5 didn't go into 3, but 5 went into 32. So we are going to start always, always, always with what we call those leading terms. Divide your leading terms. Right? So just like we started with the 3 and then we went to the 32, we're going to do that with our long polynomials. We're only looking at those beginning pieces. Then after we figured out how many times it went in, we multiplied. And then we subtracted. And essentially when we're subtracting, we're going to change our signs. And lastly, real quick before we do 5, we're going to put a little star underneath number 4. Because we did have to do this after we subtracted or changes our sign, we had to do it all again. So we may have to repeat step 2 through 4. And then lastly, when we're done, we're going to write our remainder. If we have one, we won't always have one, over our denominator, that number outside, which is also called the divisor. Okay? So let's see what this looks like with a polynomial. Okay? And we do have this. This is on our quiz tomorrow. So let's set it up first. Okay? We're going to say x squared minus 7x plus 12 divided by x minus 3. Okay? So remember, We got to set up that division first, okay? So our denominator is going to stay outside. And then the numerator goes inside. So setting up correctly is key. Now we have to divide our leading terms. So this x is my leading term and this x squared. Remember, the leading term is going to be the one with the highest exponent. It's at the front, okay? I don't want you to worry about that minus 3 right now. So we need to decide what do I need to multiply by x to get x squared? I just need to multiply x. And I'm going to put it over my other single x. Then we said step 3 was multiply, right? So I'm going to say x times x is x squared. But I also have this minus 3 piece. So I got to do x times minus 3 or negative 3. What do we get? Negative 3x. So now we're on to step 4. We have to subtract. So essentially, we're changing the signs, right? My x squared becomes a negative. My negative 3x becomes a positive. Our goal is to eliminate this first term. X squared minus x squared, that's a 0. So bye-bye. Now be careful with your signs. Use your calculator if you're not sure. Negative 7x plus 3x. Negative 4x. What am I going to do with that 12? Bring it down. And now we got to do it all again. So now my leading term is still this x, but now it's a negative 4x as well. So what do we multiply by x to get negative 4x? We multiply negative 4. Okay? We're going to have to multiply that now. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. But I also have to do negative 4 times negative 3. Positive 12. Negative times a negative is a positive. Change the signs, right? So this negative 4 becomes a positive. This positive 12 becomes a negative. Oh, look, they canceled. I have no remainder. My quotient, my answer, is x minus 4. Let's try another. Let's do 2x squared plus 2x minus 5 divided by or over x minus 1. So step 1, we got to set it up. So we're going to say x minus 1 into 2x squared plus 2x minus 5. So now we got to divide those leading terms. So we're saying x and 2x squared. So what times x is 2x squared? 2x, good. So we got to multiply, right? So we're saying 2x times x is 2x squared. What's 2x times negative 1? Negative 2x. Okay? We've multiplied. That was step 3. Step 4, subtract or just change your sign. So my positive 2x squared becomes a negative. My negative 2x becomes a positive. So now we're going to put them together. This cancels. What's a 2x and a 2x? 4. A 4x, and bring down the, what kind of 5 is it? Minus 5. Make sure you have the sign. And now we do it all over again. So I'm saying x and 4x. What do I need to multiply by x to get 4x? What am I multiplying? Just 4. What kind of 4? Positive. So we multiply 4 times x. We get our 4x. What is 4 times negative 1? Negative 4. Change the signs. So this becomes a negative. What does this become? A positive. Negative 5 plus 4 is negative 1. Now, I don't have anything else to bring down, so this is going to be our remainder. And we said our step for our remainder, we're going to put plus, and then we're going to make it a fraction over our denominator over x minus 1. Okay, so that one is a little bit more ugly. We'll just go ahead and I'll set it up for you. Let's do x minus 3 into x squared minus 7x plus 5. Start with your leading term. What times x is x squared? Just x. So again, make sure you're multiplying by all the things. So we're saying x times x, x squared, and x times negative 3, negative 3x. Subtract or just change your sign. So that negative goes in front of the x squared. This negative 3x becomes a positive. Negative 7x plus 3x, be careful with your signs, is negative 4x. Make sure you pay attention to what you have more of. We're going to add the 5. So now we have x times something is negative 4x. What do we get? What times x is negative 4x? Negative 4. So we're multiplying negative 4 times x. Is that negative 4x? Negative 4 times negative 3 is positive 12. Good. Change your signs. So positive, what does this positive 12 become? A negative. Be careful there. 5 minus 12. What do we get? 5 minus 12? Negative 7. And that's our remainder because we don't have anything to bring down. So remember, when we write it, we're going to come up here. We're going to say x minus 4 plus, and then we're going to put negative 7. That's our new numerator over what was our denominator? X minus 3.